Meanwhile, this morning's tragedy in Vanderbijl Park has brought scholar transport safety into sharp focus as the South African Human Rights Commission prepares to release a report on long-standing safety and operational failures in scholar transport in the Northwest Province. Scholar transport in the province has been characterized by serious safety and operational failures, including unroadworthy and unsafe vehicles, some of which have been described as coffins. Commissioner Nomahlubi Kwinana says learners have been exposed to accidents and academic disadvantages as a result of these failures.
Unroadworthy and unsafe vehicles, some of which have been described by affected communities and stakeholders as coffins due to severe mechanical defects, expired license discs, fuel leaks, and absence of basic safety features. 3. Chronic overloading of vehicles, often far exceeding approved passenger capacity, significantly increasing the risk of accidents and injuries.
Actioner says mayoral candidate for Ekurhuleni Xolani Khumalo has officially been charged with assault and the pointing of a firearm. This morning, the crime activist turned politician handed himself over to police in Katlehong. He was being sought by authorities over an incident that took place in December last year. It's alleged Khumalo and others assaulted an adult male during drug raid operations. Tabiso Goba has more.
Action SA supporters, along with other civil society organizations, have come out in their numbers to show support for Xolani Khumalo. The general mood in the crowd is that Khumalo is being punished for taking on drug dealers. Action SA's Gauteng chairperson, Funzi Ngobeni.
We just finished with the process here in the SAPS Katlehong. Xolani is now detained. He will be appearing in court still today. So we will be moving to the Palm Ridge Magistrate Court for this process to continue. So yeah, I was with him throughout up until they put him in the cells. It's a process that the police needs to go through. We appreciate that.
The crowd has now moved to the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court, where they are hoping Khumalo will make his first appearance today. Tabiso Goba, Eyewitness News, Katlehong.
The agricultural industry is expected to count its losses in Limpopo and Mpumalanga amid the damaging floods in both provinces. The ongoing weather disaster has created immediate humanitarian and economic crises, with calls for a swift and coordinated response by government. A red level 10 warning for disruptive rain in parts of Mpumalanga and Limpopo last week left a trail of destruction, including damage to homes and other public infrastructure. Emergency teams are still on high alert. Nugukanya Mtambo has the details.
Without urgent emergency repairs to critical infrastructure, including water, electricity, transport and supply chain routes, the DA says the humanitarian and economic consequences will be significantly worsened. The party says it's especially worried about the farming sector. While the floods present some risks to food price inflation, agricultural economist Wandile Slobo says the damage doesn't change much on the optimistic picture of agricultural growth in 2026, with field crops and horticulture in other provinces in good condition.
Production conditions broadly are looking fairly excellent for this season.
Slobo says he's hoping for a better recovery in the livestock industry when cattle vaccination gains momentum to help push the overall agricultural industry along. Nogukanya Mtambo, Eyewitness News.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says government is determined to place greater emphasis and make more investment into the early years of schooling to achieve better matric outcomes. As from this year, grade R is now compulsory at all schools. Writing in his first newsletter for the year, Ramaphosa says government is on an ambitious drive to register and provide subsidies to more early childhood development centres. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
While lauding the 88% pass rate of the class of 2025 and the increase in bachelor's passes from disadvantaged schools, President Cyril Ramaphosa says the challenges in the education system can't be ignored. This includes the nearly 500,000 children who entered grade 1 in 2014 but didn't make it to grade 12 last year. The president says more needs to be done to increase the number of children who complete their schooling. Another challenge concerning the president is the drop in performance in subjects like mathematics and accounting, despite more learners taking these subjects. Ramaphosa says these are the subjects that are needed to excel in a rapidly changing economy. He says this is why government is strengthening early grade reading, improving teaching materials, and focusing on teacher development in the early grades. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
And in Spain, the death toll from a high-speed train collision has risen to 39, with dozens more people injured. It's understood a high-speed train travelling from Malaga to Madrid derailed and crossed over onto another track, colliding with an oncoming train. The rail networks say 400 passengers and staff were on board both trains. Spanish Transport Minister Oscar Puente has warned that the death toll from the incident could rise as officials launch an investigation into the crash. All rail services between Madrid and Andalusia have been suspended following the accident. Gold's trading at $4,667.39 an ounce. The rand's at 16.44 to the dollar, at 22.04 to the pound, at 19.11 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $63.34 a barrel.
Well, at this stage, if you're leaving four ways heading towards Randburg, there's an accident scene. This is on the N1 southbound before Malibongo Drive, causing heavy delays all the way from Winnie Mandela Drive. And in the mother city, there's also an accident scene in Stellenbosch that's approaching Adam Tuss on Strand Road.
A look at your weather. It's a cloudy start to the week in Gauteng, with temperatures having peaked at highs between 24 and 26 degrees this afternoon. It's clear skies in the mother city with fresh southeasterly winds at a high of 24 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour: the number of learners who lost their lives following a scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park earlier this morning has risen to 12.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. You're with Mandy Wiener on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. Think bigger, think Nedbank Commercial Banking. On the show today, 12 pupils die in a scholar transport crash in the Vaal. Action SA member Xolani Khumalo hands himself over to the police. Incentives for whistleblowers in a private members bill. The Navy chiefs in the firing line over Iran drill. And we'll talk about that AFCON final. All of that over the next hour.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Report on 702 and Cape Talk with me, Mandy Wiener. Good to be with you today. Sure, we'll talk about this terrible accident that's taken place in the Vaal and the issue of scholar transport in general. We know the Human Rights Commission has been looking at this, particularly in the Northwest Province. But I'm watching those visuals on television, and the journalists allowed quite close to the wreckage of that scholar transport vehicle, and it's entirely mangled. You can see the kind of detritus of the kids that were traveling in that vehicle being strewn around it in the veld alongside the road, and that wreckage just looks harrowing. It looks horrific. The officials on the scene now. We'll speak to Mongezi Koko in a short while. He's on the scene there for us. Never an easy job for a reporter being on a scene like that. But it would be remiss of me not to mention that AFCON final last night. We'll speak about it a bit later on in the show on the sports feature, but I know many of my colleagues have been speaking about it on air today already. I stayed up last night watching it, and I was just astonished at the extent of the chaos and the fact that this was happening. It's something that you just are not used to seeing in a final like that. I thought Sadio Mane showed impeccable leadership, and that's why he is such a popular man in Senegal. He's built more schools than the government has there. That is an unchecked fact. But I think that it really should never have deteriorated in the way that it did. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. If you watched it, what did you think about that final? What did you think about the penalty, the Patenka? What did you think about that? Oh, brave. Or was it intentional? A lot of conspiracy theories out there at the moment. Send me a WhatsApp voice note, 072 7021 702 0725 671567. But we start the show today, unfortunately, on a very somber note, looking at that accident in the Vaal. As I mentioned at the start of the show, preliminary information indicating that a minibus taxi that the learners were travelling in was struck by a side tipper truck, causing it to veer off the road. Mongezi Koko, EWN reporter on the scene for us. Mongezi, good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. Describe what you can see there.
A very good afternoon to you, Mandy. It's quite a travesty, as you'd imagine. Dozens of families having gathered this morning after learning of the tragic ordeal. And of course, then that's where we saw forensic pathologists combing through the scene and recovering many a lifeless body, quite tiny bodies that we saw. We saw some grim and very graphic incidents here where of course, the incident and the passing of these said learners. Now, what we understand so far, Mandy, is that the death toll sits at 12. However, this is, of course, expected to go up as more of the learners are in hospital trying to receive medical assistance, Mandy. But where I am standing, I'm currently joined by someone from the Gauteng Education Department's Transport Division. Pilani, thank you so much for your time. Just walk us through what exactly your department understands and what's the next step here.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Pilani Ramarusi. I'm from Gauteng Education Transport Services. The Gauteng Education Transport Services is an organization that represents scholar operators in Gauteng. So we're responsible for all the operations of scholar transport. So we're in partnership with the Department of Transport. We're also registered, officially registered with the Department of Transport as a transport operator in Gauteng.
Now, Dr. Pilani, I just want to shift you towards this particular incident. We understand that this scholar transport vehicle was private and that the driver of the scholar transport vehicle had received a warning last week in terms of his reckless and negligent driving. He has survived the ordeal. What is going to happen next, and what do we understand so far about his driving patterns?
The unfortunate part is we cannot daily regulate the behavior of a person, especially when they're on the road. We have courses that we have taken them to. We're having partnership with the Road Accident Fund, which is doing driver training and driver assessment. So some of the drivers, they are not part of those programs because there are those who feel that they don't want to belong anywhere. So if you don't belong anywhere, you just become a private operator who's not accountable anywhere.
Did he belong to anything?
Yes, the owner of the vehicle is the member of the organization. He is belonging to this region of CDB.
Right.
So he's registered with us. The person who was driving, currently we're still not sure. We're gathering the information from law enforcement. As we're prevented from engaging with other people on the scene, we're still gathering information if he was a compliant member, and then from there we'll take it from there as soon as we get the information on what was the status of the member, because we know he was a member.
And I do understand that this may be murky sort of ground for you, but I understand police are investigating the possibility that the scholar transport vehicle may have been overloaded and also checking in equal breath if it was roadworthy. Can you speak to any of these 2 points?
Yeah, because in terms of the specific accident, we're clearly not yet briefed about the incident, but if the law feels that there was any negligence or any wrongdoing that is unlawful, then the law must take its course because they have a right. I can speak on behalf of the organization, but the law enforcement is the main authority that must take charge. That's why we have left the scene to law enforcement to make sure that they deal with the aspect, then they'll give us a briefing as we have monthly meetings with law enforcement and the Department of Transport.
Dr. Pilani, we're running out of time, but a quick one, just a final one. When it comes to these scholar transport vehicle crashes, we're seeing them quite often. I'll take you back to 2 years ago when we saw one in Vaal that resulted in the deaths of 12 learners. Last year, we saw another one in Kempton Park that resulted in the loss of life for about 7 learners, if I'm not mistaken. And now we're seeing 11 learners losing their lives. In fact, 12, with the number expected to rise. It's clear that the department doesn't really have a clear understanding of what's going on, whether it be in the form of regulation or in the form of repercussions for reckless and negligent driving. What's your point there?
The Department of Transport is the sole responsible department to regulate transport, especially those that are running transport for reward. So scholar transport is part of those who are regulated by the Department of Transport. We have requested a meeting for this week with the MEC, as Gauteng Education Transport Services. We scheduled it for this week. We wrote to the MEC last week. So we'll be raising issues of compliance, issues of the department backlog on operating licenses, because some of the people are operating without the operating licenses, which we previously called the permits, because of the backlog that is from the department.
So a lot of issues to deal with. Thank you so much, Dr. Pilani, for your time. Mandy, just to wrap it up, I must indicate that there was a mother who lost 2 of her children, in the scholar transport vehicle crying out, asking what did she do to deserve this. We also saw dozens of family members borderline fighting police physically, saying that they're demanding to see their children. As you'd imagine, it's such a grim scene where the police were trying to prohibit them from seeing the learners, but they have moved right now to the local mortuary where it's expected that they'll be undertaking the process of identifying the learners, and eventually we'll understand what the next step is and how the department hopes to help these people.
Mongezi, thank you so much. Mongezi Koko, EWN reporter. He's on the scene of that terrible, terrible crash that's taken place in Vanderbijl Park. That number now at 12 children having died. We know that at least 5 others have been taken to hospital. The driver of the Scholar Transport vehicle did survive. Officials on the scene, the MEC on the scene, and this raises so many questions, as you heard there, about Scholar Transport, about trucks, about tipper trucks and big heavy trucks that are on our roads as well. And this comes at the same time that the South African Human Rights Commission has found that the Northwest Scholar Transport violates human rights. They've released a report today in Rustenburg saying that there are systemic failures in the Scholar Transport program which constitute violations of learners' constitutional rights, including the right to basic education, as learners are unable to access schooling in a safe, reliable and consistent manner. Do you send your kids on Scholar Transport? What is your view on it? It's a necessity for many, but how worried are you every day about the safety of your children? In light of this morning's accident and in light of shootings that took place in Cape Town, the presidency has released a statement. Take a listen to the president's spokesperson, Vincent Magwenya.
On the learner transport tragedy, the president finds it particularly distressing that this incident has taken place on the day the South African Human Rights Commission has published a report on scholar transport in the Northwest. The President's thoughts are with the families, teachers, classmates, and friends of the young victims.
Vincent Magwenya, the president's spokesperson there on this latest incident. I'd love to have your thoughts on that. I'm still watching on the various television networks, police tape finally going up. It took a very long time for that police tape to go up to keep the cameras back. They were right in, practically inside the wreckage, and a number of the family members still standing there trying to understand, get more information about that terrible tragedy.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently.
The Senzo Meyiwa trial is back. Remember, it was postponed on the 5th of December to today. At that last sitting, Judge Rata Mogwatleng ordered that police officers that were allegedly involved in the assault of a defense witness be called to testify. So let's find out what's happening there today. Khomotso Modise, EWN reporter at the court for us. Khomotso, good afternoon to you. Tell us what we were expecting and what has happened there today.
Good afternoon, Mandy. Yes, so the Meyiwa trial is back, and proceedings did go ahead a little earlier on. There were conversations about what the way forward would look like. As you mentioned in your intro, Mandy, there was a conversation around having the police officers accused of assaulting one of the defense witnesses, that is Siso Gwabini Zungu. There were conversations about having them come and testify and respond to the allegations of assault. However, it has been agreed now by the court that Gwabini Zungu should continue with his testimony, and so that's exactly what he's doing now. He's been testifying, showing, the court where exactly he was assaulted. And I find it interesting, Mandy, that the point that he has pointed out from the aerial pictures that are being shown in court is almost the exact same spot that we saw when we went to the inspection in Loco. You may remember the court went to an inspection in Loco in Vosloorus, where Muzisbia, one of the accused, showed the court where he was assaulted. It seems to be more or less the same spot that Gwabini claims that he was assaulted as well. It's in Vosloorus. It's a municipal building, and even the style at which that he alleges that he was assaulted, handcuffed, told to sit on the ground, with his feet stretched out, almost exactly the same way that accused number one, Muzisbia, claims that he was assaulted. And the allegation, Mandy, is that members of the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, who have been working closely with the investigations team in the Senzo Meyiwa trial, were assaulting some of the accused in this case, as well as Zungu, Gwabini Zungu, in order to force him to sign a statement that implicates accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, in the murder of Senzo Meyiwa.
Khomotso, thank you very much. Khomotso Modise, EWN reporter, back at the Senzo Meyiwa trial, which resumed today. Real growth needs more than just banking, and Nedbank Commercial Banking is your growth partner. Their team of industry experts understand your business and its potential, offering insight to help you see opportunity where others see obstacles. Because when you can see what others don't, you can do what others can't. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Progress builds, it moves, and it has a partner. That partner is Anglo-American. Together, we're building progress where it matters most across South Africa, with a 1 billion rand investment into education in our host communities, 1.6 billion rand in deals facilitated through our Impact Finance Network, and 25.9 billion rand invested through our Kumba iron ore business into areas such as infrastructure development, healthcare, community upliftment, and more. Proving that when collaboration is real, progress moves faster. South Africa has a partner. Anglo-American. Mining potential, building beyond.
Year in, year out, we're fixing tires faster than a Formula One pit crew. My team is on top of things like tire whisperers. If an unforeseen accident were to happen in my workshop, at least I've got My Way business insurance to keep the wheels turning.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
WhatsApp Mandy
on 072 702 1702.
Good afternoon, Mandy. I think it was great for Senegal to win the cup because already we all knew that Morocco was favored to be the competition winner, but it wasn't meant to be. It was plotted that Morocco needed to win this cup, but unfortunately they couldn't. They were never going to win it, thanks to Senegal, and they fought very well. Paul in Dobsonville.
Dumela, Mandy and Team Kingsley from Germiston. I mean, I could talk about the AFCON 2026 final all day. But, amongst the many questions that are swirling in my mind at this point is, first of all, why exactly did the Senegalese coach lead his team off the field in protest? I mean, what was the plan? And secondly, what on earth was Diaz thinking when he took such a nonchalant penalty for Morocco? And thirdly, was this really the best refereeing team that could have been selected to referee this match? I mean, Sadio Mane showed exceptional leadership under very difficult circumstances, but all in all, it was a spectacular final to watch and one not to be forgotten.
Kingsley, I agree with you. I could talk about this for an hour. Easily, I could do a show on just the AFCON final today. I have some serious doubts about that Panenka, that penalty that was taken. And for those of you who don't follow soccer or football and you don't know what that is, it's a penalty kick where the player kind of chips the ball down the middle very softly and gently and placidly while the goalkeeper dives away, but it did not work. It's actually named, I didn't know this, it's named after a Czech player called Antonin Panenka, in case you were wondering why it's called a Panenka. Anyway, lots of questions. I don't think it was rigged. Some people are suggesting that Panenka was intentional so that the game could be sorted out in regulation time or in open play. I do think there's lots of questions and there needs to be introspection about how that match just completely deteriorated and all control was lost. But keep sending your WhatsApp voice notes. I'd love to hear from you.
702. Mandy Wiener.
Weekdays 12 to 1 p.m.
Action SA's mayoral candidate for Ekurhuleni, Xolani Khumalo, has handed himself over to police in Katlehong. This is in connection with an assault charge that was opened against him in December. There's been a lot of support for him outside the police station. Action SA's national chairperson, Michael Beaumont, also speaking out. EWN reporter Tabiso Goba was there for us. Tabiso, good afternoon to you. Firstly, just remind us, what is this assault charge to do with?
Good afternoon, Mandy. Well, we do understand, Mandy, that last year, in December last year, Xolani Khumalo was part of a massive disciplinary raid. Action SA has told us it included SAPs, but also other security companies where they went to a suspected drug dealer's house, and they obviously found something. They found something at that suspected dealer's house. But how they found that something is that during the operation, that adult male, who's the suspected drug dealer, was assaulted, and then that adult male eventually ended up opening a case against Xolani Khumalo and 2 other gentlemen for assault and the pointing of a firearm.
So tell us about what the reaction has been there. A number of Action SA members coming out to support him.
Yes, as you said, Mandy, we started off this morning at the Katlehong police station. That's where Xolani Khumalo handed himself over. He was officially detained and he was charged with assault GBH and the illegal pointing of a firearm. Now, we are currently at the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court. This is where Xolani Khumalo is being transferred to, and we are expecting that he might make his first appearance today. We did have a pop-in and spoke to some of the court officials. They are saying that they're willing to accommodate him. However, it is going to be tight. Now, Mandy, this last year we reported on a story around Robert Vary. Robert Vary he died. And Xolani Khumalo was charged with the murder of Robert Vary. He allegedly died during the taping of Xolani Khumalo's drug-busting reality TV show. However, those charges against Robert Vary were eventually dropped due to insufficient evidence. So it's not the first time that Xolani Khumalo is in the crosshairs of police. And we asked Action SA, the Action SA's national chairperson, Michael Beaumont, whether Action SA still has Xolani Khumalo's back and does it still support him? And this is what Michael Beaumont had to say.
That drug dealer has laid charges against Xolani for assault, and isn't it ironic that it is this that the police have decided to act upon and arrest him here today? But we are proud of Xolani because he is not a man who fears accountability. He heard rumors about this arrest and he presented himself to the police and said, I welcome accountability, because people who don't break the law, they welcome accountability in our country. But there's a fight here that resonates with every South African, and that is the fight to say that if you fight criminals and drug dealers in your community, it is you that gets harassed, it's you that gets arrested, and it is the police who are implicated in these things. And that's why we stand with him today, and we stand with every South African that this story resonates with. But this is why we've chosen Xolani Khumalo to be our mayoral candidate for Ekurhuleni, because Ekurhuleni is a corrupt, dysfunctional city. And we want Xolani to kick down the doors of power, just like he's done with drug dealers in their communities. And we think that's what he's going to do.
So that's so interesting. With your political reporter hat on, this is clearly a hill that Action SA is willing to die on. Do you think this will work with the electorate in Ekurhuleni, or will it damage Action SA?
Well, I guess, Mandy, it's a matter of waiting. One thing we do know is that Xolani Khumalo is very popular around these parts. And the reason that Action SA actually chose him is because for his crime activism. So in another case, Mandy, it wouldn't make sense for Action SA to suddenly dump him for the same thing that it actually chose him as its mayoral candidate for Ekurhuleni. But it will go to show just how much Action SA is willing to stomach from Xolani Khumalo before eventually making a decision, or is it going to carry on just sticking by him until those local government elections that can happen around this year in November this year.
Tabiso, thank you very much. Tabiso Goba, EWN reporter in Ekurhuleni for us, where Action SA's mayoral candidate Xolani Khumalo has handed himself over to the police. 12:30, time for Eyewitness News headlines.
Thanks, Mandy. Good afternoon. We begin with the latest from the south of Johannesburg, where one learner has succumbed to their injuries in hospital, pushing the death toll of the Scholar Transport crash in Vanderbijl Park to 13. 4 learners sustained critical injuries and have since been hospitalized after a minibus taxi transporting learners was struck by a side tipper truck, causing it to veer off the road. The case against the man accused of killing 2 cousins from Mamelodi has been postponed to March. Debo Khomnisi is alleged to have shot and killed 21-year-old Bali Singh and 22-year-old Tsiamo Moramaga in October last year. He faces 2 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder for shooting another victim who was seen with the girls before they were killed. And Metal Workers Union NUMSA says the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is proof that the United States is willing to violate international law to gain access to foreign mineral resources. The trade union is set to march to the U.S. Embassy in Santon on Saturday in solidarity with Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. The pair was captured more than 2 weeks ago during a U.S. military invasion in the capital of Venezuela, Caracas. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at 1 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Sport.
Good afternoon, I'm Tolagile Mganga. CAF has condemned what they term as the unacceptable behavior of players and officials during the AFCON final between Morocco and Senegal. They're now reviewing all footage and will refer the matter to competent bodies for appropriate action to be taken against those found guilty. On the pitch, the Lions of Teranga won the game 1-0 after extra time, having staged a walkout when they had a penalty awarded against them in deep stoppage time at the end of the match. Sadio Mane had to appeal to his teammates to return to the pitch, and he's discussed why it was important to finish the game.
Yeah, I think it was the best thing to do because this is just football. I think the referee sometimes can do mistake, but it can also be just people will judge this. But I think it could be penalty or no. But that's not the more important. The more important is about the people who watching the world watching this football. It's not fair to stop the game like this. So I think it was really, really important to play this game. Even though we could have won or we could have lost, it doesn't matter.
The Betway Premiership is back this evening as champions Mamelodi Sundowns take on Orbit College. Aubrey Mudiba and his teammates are 2 points behind leaders Orlando Pirates, and 3 points tonight will see them reclaim top spot.
It's good to be back in the league as well. We haven't competed this year in the league. It's going to be an interesting game against Orbit, the teams that we never played against. But we've been watching them, we know how they play. We're going to watch a few of their games as well in the PSL. They're going to give us a tough time, but, no game is easy in the PSL.
And at the Australian Open, Mira Andreeva, Andrei Rublev, Daniil Medvedev, Coco Gauff and Igor Swiatek are just some of the names who are through to round 2 after wins today. Novak Djokovic, who's chasing his 25th Grand Slam singles title, will face off against Pedro Martinez. Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you're traveling from Four Ways heading towards Randburg, there's still that accident scene on the N1 southbound before Malibongo Drive, causing delays from Winnie Mandela Drive. Otherwise, the rest of Gauteng not looking too bad. No accidents have been reported in the city of Pretoria. Otherwise, in the mother city, there's that accident scene in Stellenbosch at Strand Road approaching Adam Tuss. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
At Isuzu, we know every delivery, every kilometer, and every load is building something bigger. This truck month, set your business up for success with special deals across the Isuzu N and F-Series ranges. Don't get left behind. Speak to your Isuzu truck specialist or call 08600 Isuzu and secure your truck month deal today. Isuzu, with you for the long run. T's and C's apply.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. Like a businesswoman on the way to the airport after sleeping through her alarm. Bags in the back, boarding pass on the dashboard. She prays she'll make her flight. Hope I make it. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic. It's the potential closing of a big deal. Every story is different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005. In proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
Hi, I'm in grade 6 at Crawford International, and I'm already building my future. At Crawford, we don't just learn, we prepare for the world ahead. By grade 10, I can choose from a range of subjects in any combination. With experienced teachers, amazing extracurriculars, and AI-driven support, I'm set up to excel in everything, from maths to public speaking. Book your personalized tour. Crawford International, building global leaders.
WhatsApp Mandy
on 072 702 1702.
Hi, Mandy. We have said this over and over and over again. Our pleas are falling on deaf ears. The GDE online system is encouraging an increase in scholar transport by displacing our children from where they stay, placing them at schools that are far away. Bazooka from Pretoria.
Hi, Wendy. What a horrific incident. My heart goes out to the families involved.
The issue on the scholar transport situation is not something new. There have been many incidents before. And like always, something bad always has to happen before we pay attention to it. There have been so many cries over the years, and the government hasn't done anything of substance. Something has to give. This can't keep happening.
Good day, Wendy. There is one angle that I think everyone is turning a blind eye. These tipper trucks. You don't know how careless those guys, even taxi drivers, are far better drivers than these tipper truck drivers. So if your focus is on scholar transport, you are losing it. Look at these tipper trucks as well. Everywhere they go, they are rough. They don't care about people's lives. You ask anyone, they will tell you. They will tell you so. Please, also take this driver, the issue of tipper truck drivers, into consideration. Then you will be attempting to solve the problem. Thank you. User the Uber driver.
Yeah, I totally agree with almost all of those sentiments. And I did raise this concern. It's not just about scholar transport. It's about the trucks on our roads. I drove that road from the Vaal yesterday. And the amount of trucks and trucks that are driving fast and trucks that are driving recklessly. For those of you who drove over December, it's a huge issue as well. We don't know what happened in this incident. But Mongezi in his report said that if that driver was reprimanded for negligent driving last week, and Charles says if the transport driver was reprimanded for negligent driving last week, why was he driving this week? And there needs to be an investigation into this. What actually happened? I also agree with that sentiment about the fact that because people are being placed, or children are being placed at schools far away from where they live, there's more of a reliance on scholar transport. So there's more children on the roads, and that's a really good point as well. On the WhatsApp line, Raps from the Vaal says that president message is meaningless. If they cared about us, then stricter laws would be implemented. It's clear things need to change. People get killed, horrible accidents happen, daily crime is out of control, and our president sends meaningless messages. Thanks very much, Raps.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently.
On this point of meaningless messages and government just not doing what it needs to do. So I've been banging on for years now about this new legislation that we're waiting for around whistleblowers. When Ronald Lamola was the Minister of Justice, he put out a document on new legislation. We are waiting for this legislation to actually appear. It's supposed to be tabled in March. It hasn't come yet, and we desperately need new legislation. This is the amendment to the current legislation that we're waiting for. Well, in the interim, Action SA has introduced a private members bill that is aimed at incentivizing and rewarding whistleblowers. So this law will allow courts to award whistleblowers up to a third of the funds that are awarded in corruption cases linked to public procurement. This is a lot like what they have in the United States, where they have the False Claims Act, where a whistleblower is eligible to receive between 50 and 30% of a successful whistleblowing claim. And this is something that's really been debated. Should whistleblowers be financially rewarded? You can have, there's lots of issues around that, the risks around it. But Malebo Kobe, Action SA MP, is joining us now to speak about this. Malebo, good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for your time. Tell us about this private members bill that you have introduced.
Thank you so much for having me, Mandy, and good afternoon to you and your listeners. Well, the private members bill that we've introduced, it's much needed right now, and I think for the most part of the bill, it's to honor fallen whistleblowers who have come forward and have paid the price with their lives. And what this bill seeks to do, Mandy, is that it works twofold. We want to strengthen and put much more robust mechanisms in terms of ensuring the anonymity of the whistleblower. But most importantly, over and above, we want to reward them monetary-wise to ensure that we incentivize this sort of behavior that disrupts corrupt networks. I think South Africa has been battling with fraud, corruption, especially in the public procurement space for years now. And I think the only most effective way now, we have seen the carrot, the stick approach. The most effective way now, I think, as Action SA, we want to take the carrot approach and see how that will go.
In America, one of the concerns is often bounty hunters, or the fact that people can be negatively incentivized and can make up claims against people. When the government went into this process of the legislation that they're looking at in terms of the Public Disclosures Act, they looked at international best practice. What was it about this particular legislation that you felt was the right approach to go with incentivization?
Look, we did think about, ways in which we can safeguard against vigilantism or, bounty hunter style against, individuals. What we wanted to do is that this act allows you to take the matters, it goes through the courts anyway, so it will be tried and tested within the bounds of the law. So it's not something that you can do it just on your own, and we encourage vigilantism. We still want the matters to go through our court system, our law enforcement, and through our law enforcement authorities. The only problem is that the current scope of application is very limited, only to, the NPA. What this bill seeks to do is that once the matter goes in front of the NPA for 30 days and it lapses because the NPA was unable to act for one reason or another, whether they're not capacitated to do so or just institutional inefficiencies, it allows you to take the matter privately, private prosecution through the courts. So you don't act on your own, and that's how the bill continues to safeguard against vigilantism or any other acts of criminalities that might put their head up. Yeah.
Malebo, how does it work with a private member's bill? If there already is this legislation coming from the Justice Ministry, could they incorporate some of your bill? Could this one get enough support to kind of trump that one? How does that all work?
Well, we do hope that it does eventually come, the one from the Justice Department. But our private members bill seeks to compensate for the failures. Should the Justice Department not come through, we will continue full steam ahead with this legislation. We will require the support of other political parties, obviously, and we are hoping that they do support us. What we are trying to do is really disrupt the entrenched networks of corruption. And should political parties not come to the party and support us, the most important question will be, what is it that they're trying to protect? And most importantly, who's benefiting from these corrupt networks? We are trying to really fill the gap in the lacuna that exists within the law. And any political party that does not support us in this endeavor would be very suspect.
Malebo, thank you so much. Malebo Kobe, Action SA MP, speaking to us there about this private members bill, which looks at incentivizing and rewarding whistleblowers.
Supercharge your business productivity with Moloi Innovative Solutions. We bring the most highly customized and cost-effective IT infrastructure to your fingertips. Whether it's desktop and server support, cloud services or hardware, software and printer procurement, our dynamic team makes sure that you have the tech that resonates with you. Moloi Innovative Solutions. Experience at its best. Get to molois.co.za for more.
A man driven to the edge. I don't know where you are. I don't know who you're with. When his beloved takeaway was taken away. I will look for you. I will find you. And I will eat you.
It's the summer of stars at Simply Asia. Stand a chance to win a Toyota Starlet when you spend 200 Rand or more on our famous flavors. Order now. Simply Asia. Connecting the Thaiway.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. It will leave you feeling overwhelmed. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim to make those important calls. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
WhatsApp Mandy on 072 702 1702.
Very good afternoon. You know, the number of children killed or whose lives were being destroyed by drugs far outweighs what Xolani Khumalo is being accused of. And I find it really insane that the person who's trying to fight criminality and drug abuse is now getting arrested as opposed to those perpetrators. It's a crazy, crazy system. I don't get it.
Mandy, I'm not one for soccer, but I honestly thought that game was organized bloody chaos. It almost felt like they were being paid to throw the game and not actually score anything. But I must say the Senegalese goalie, he kept them from scoring. That was good. But effectively, the last 20 minutes of the game was interesting. The rest of the game was boring. We sat chatting through this game whilst watching at the local pub around the corner from us. But otherwise, yeah, interesting times indeed.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of speculation about whether that whole thing was rigged, whether it was intentionally thrown or not. Who knows? I don't know, but there's going to have to be a lot of introspection about what happened there. We'll speak to Mwande about that in a short while. Thank you very much for those WhatsApp voice notes. Nkosana says, trucks on our road are very bullish. I use N3 truck speed more than cars and very careless. Keith says, when will some of the scholar transport drivers stop playing with our children's lives? Can't go like this anymore. Every year it happens. 12 children dead. It can go higher. That number has now risen. 13. So 13 pupils having died in that accident earlier today.
702, the Midday Report, Monday to Friday,
12 to 1 p.m.
Last week, we spoke at length about the flooding in Limpopo and Mpumalanga. The Kruger National Park is now reopened to day visitors as those floodwaters recede. And Nhlanhla Mabaso, EWN reporter, has been in Mpumalanga. So let's check in with him to see what the situation is like. Nhlanhla, good afternoon to you. Are areas starting to recover?
Well, many that's according to the provincial government, but these rainfall or persistent rainfall appears to be making that very difficult for them. We do understand that as it stands in Mpumalanga alone, over 1,300 homes have been destroyed by these severe rains. We do know that 20 people are confirmed dead. And you'd recall, maybe, that this is not a recent issue. The rainfall here started when the rain season kicked in November 2025. That's when they started experiencing some of the incident in various parts of the province. But it got worse early this year, with road infrastructure affected, bridges also swept away by heavy rains. And according to the provincial Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport here in Mpumalanga, they say that they will need about R1 billion in a bid to fix those. And the Cooperative Governance and Human Settlements Department here says that the overall R2 billion or more, Mandy, is needed in a bid to ensure that they recover from this. But while they try to make those recovery efforts, these heavy rains keep on persisting, Mandy.
Nhlanhla, thank you very much for that quick update. Nhlanhla Mabaso, EWN reporter in Mpumalanga.
702.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
Let's walk the talk.
12:50 on the Midday Report. A really interesting article in the Sunday Times yesterday about this whole furore around the drill that was done, the Navy drill with Iran. Initially, it was that South Africa led it, and then it was not actually China led it. Iran was invited, then uninvited, and now there's an investigation or inquiry into the fact that clearly the president's instruction was ignored, and now it seems as though the Navy chief might be in the firing line. Well, let's speak to Tandutola Jika, investigations editor at the Sunday Times, to speak more about that. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time.
Afternoon, Mandy, and afternoon to your listeners.
So what is your understanding now of who might ultimately be responsible here? How much do we know, and how much is going to come before the inquiry?
Of course, through our work in the past week, pursuing this
story because Iran was already here when the president convened a meeting last week, Friday, with his national security advisor, the Minister of Defense, and the Minister in the Presidency, and DERCO's minister. I mean, what is seemingly a serious issue is fingers being pointed at the chief, at the South African Navy chief, Mondelo Bese, whom they blame for not heeding the president's instruction that Iran should be relegated to an observer status. But those who are close to the Navy are saying this message that Iran should be relegated to an observer status came in late, and it would have gone through the SNDF's Joint Operations Division and not the SA Navy itself.
Now, this is not the first time of late that there's been a little bit of what's the right word? The Navy hasn't necessarily followed orders, that we've seen an outspoken leadership against the president. What does that tell us about what kind of hierarchy there is at the moment in our military with regards to the president?
What is kind of obvious now is that there seems to be this dissenting voices in the military where actually they are in fact doing their own thing and essentially not listening to the commander-in-chief. And this is why now the Minister of Defense has had to actually introduce or ask for a board of inquiry into these actions. You'd remember one of the generals last year went to Tehran and said certain things that were shocking to the presidency and for diplomatic relations with the U.S. as well.
Thando Xolo, thank you so much. Very interesting report yesterday in the Sunday Times. Thando Xolo Jika is investigations editor at the Sunday Times, speaking to us there. Is this a case of Angie Motshekga doing her job, or is it a case of Angie Motshekga getting out of the way or laying the blame? I think that's the point of this inquiry, is to try and find out what actually happened.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. Like the lady on her way to work, listening to a love song on the radio. She's recreating the music video in her mind with herself as the leading lady. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic, it's a concert on the move. Every story is different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
Life keeps getting busier. Parenting, shopping, working, exercising, just surviving. With all of that, who has time for anything else? That's why Netcare introduces Netcare Appointmed. Just tell us what you need, a specialist, GP or dentist, and we'll search our nationwide network of 5,000 doctors and find an appointment with a doctor who best suits your needs and medical aid. That's Netcare Appointmed on the Netcare app.
Sports Wrap on 702 and Cape Talk.
Hello, 702 Land. To be in an African Cup Nation final is not easy. To be in any final is not easy. The organization was good, everything was fine until the final. So for me, CAF need to do something about it, because either is a corruption or is a lack of competence. But it was the final of the final. It was the Indian curry final. You cannot take out any spice. As long as the food was good, we ate it, we enjoyed it with our family. That was, how can I describe the final? But CAF must do something about it for the referee. Yes, that's my take on it.
Good day, Mandy. I like what Dio and Mani did with their little meeting on the sideline and straight from there, Mane went to the change room and called those players to go back and play the game. That was very good from the two players. The one man, Diouf was an ex-player, and Mane is now still playing. Thank you.
Yeah, leadership. Mwande Mateza, where do we even start talking about that final last night? It was an Indian curry. It was spicy. It wasn't just spicy. It was like, it was more of a quickie because it was chaos.
Yeah, you've never seen something like that before. Good afternoon, Mandy. And it's so thrilling. And I think it was very fitting for the tournament as it's been. I mean, some people will call it a spectacle and people look down on the negative side of it. And yeah, fair enough. But I don't think it's an indictment on all of African football, for instance. I do understand where the Senegalese players were coming from, having had their own goal disallowed a minute before. Yes.
There's a context of a tournament-long concern.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, also the treatment of the Senegalese squad in the lead-up to that match where, they were mobbed and they didn't have security and all the like, and that they weren't taken care of. And then there's all these little things around that game as well with Morocco's organisers and whatever else around employing gamesmanship and the like. So it's so
have you seen all these videos of the towels?
Yeah, like
they were trying to take Mendy's towel.
They were wrestling. They were wrestling the reserve goalkeeper who's keeping the towel on him so he could help his teammate. I do think it is understandable, and in the end, I think Sadio Mane has to be commended, and the others as well that have been mentioned, because big players show up in big games, and it's not always in the way that you expect. And I think the way that Mane came through for Senegal last night was really, really big of him and fitting of a player of his caliber.
So let's park that for a second and speak about Europe. Because, Manchester United stunning Man City in the derby.
So that for me, that result points towards the fact that Man United had it all along, and Ruben Amorim was the person holding them back because they completely outplayed Manchester City, and it would not be a stretch to say that it could have been 3-4, 5-0 even with some of the goals that were disallowed and hitting the bar and stuff. It was very there was tiny margins in that, and yeah, it also points towards City and questions where you'd ask, are they as strong as we believe, or do people play City on their reputation of the past? So that is something that I'm very, very interested to see over the next coming weeks. But I do think, very tentatively, Manchester United, if they're not back, they're certainly on the road to it. And I do think Michael Carrick is probably going to be the person to help them, until the next person comes in.
And our franchises did a little bit better in the Champions Cup this weekend.
Yeah, fantastic. For the Bulls especially, because they broke a 7-match losing run and ended up qualifying for the round of 16 in the Champions Cup. Also a very big win for the Sharks as well. I think those two teams, especially these results, I think will do them well going into the URC for the rest of the season. And the Stormers, of course, I think that was very much expected.
I got Tolokele's predictions last week on the Australian Open. I don't know if you heard that. I'll tell you in a second. What do you think?
I'm going with Alcaraz and Paulini.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's very interesting. I went Sinner Sabalenka.
Okay.
And Tolokele went Iga and Sinner.
I think I'm on a hot streak. I predicted Senegal last week.
I mean, 50-50. Mwande, thank you very much. Mwande Mateza.
The Midday Report.
Thank you very much for joining us. The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk was brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. Think bigger, think Nedbank Commercial Banking. It's 1 o'clock.
This is EWN.
The death toll rises in Vanderbijl Park learner transport accident and Cape Town mass shooting linked to extortion. Good afternoon, I'm Maki Malapo. We begin with the latest coverage where one learner has succumbed to their injuries in hospital, pushing the death toll of the Scholar Transport crash in Vanderbijl Park to 13. 4 learners sustained critical injuries and have since been hospitalized after a minibus taxi they were traveling in was struck by a side tipper truck, causing it to veer off the road. Mungezi Koko is there.
As forensic pathologists continue to work through the wreckage, officials made another grim discovery: the body of a young learner corner, prompting a call for additional support on the ground. That moment was misread by distraught and desperate parents as a signal for them to move closer, to see, to know, to find answers, sparking scenes of pandemonium as emotions overflowed. As more small lifeless bodies are carefully removed from the crushed minibus, parents look on in disbelief, their faces marked by anguish, anger and hopelessness, clinging to the slimmest possibility that their child may have survived, or at the very least, for one final moment to say goodbye. Police confirmed that both the driver of the truck and the minibus survived the crash, with investigations now underway to determine exactly what led to this devastating loss of life. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News, Vanabale Park.
Meanwhile, government officials have described today's accident that claimed the lives of 13 learners as a tragic day. President Cyril Ramaphosa has called on the scholar transport sector to adhere to the rules of the road and